My name's Rachel Rose. If you haven't noticed already, I am British, so I'm from London, and I'm a relationship and boundaries coach. So it's really fitting the title of this episode. I'm also very woo-woo, so I'm a trained Reiki master and a shamanic practitioner. So I weave both of those tools together. And what I love to do is just guide women who are very high achieving women, either female entrepreneurs or corporate ladder climbing queens, as I call them, and help them demystify the dating scene. A lot of the women I work with are very busy and are really, they just desire to have that co-pilot. They're doing so well in their professional life, and it's just that missing piece. And so I help them really realize that desire in today's world with all of its apps. So we were just talking about Hinge and all of its interesting ways, let's just say, not difficult, just interesting ways to find love.
So a question I have for you, since we talked about it, you mentioned it, right? Dating apps.
Hmm.
I have friends who they pay for all the services on the dating apps. They're looking for love like everyone else, right? And
Hmm.
they're trying to understand why it is not happening for them. So from a woman's perspective, do shirtless pics work?
What a question. It's so funny. Do shirtless things work from a woman's perspective? Um, right. So if we're talking about women who are looking for a high value man long term, and because I do dating audits, right? Sorry, dating profile audits. So clients that want it, I just go through their Instagram and go through their because now Instagram is like an extension of all these apps, right? So I have people like, well, I kind of filter them into my Instagram and also on the dating apps. And I say it to them too, like, okay, it depends how you want to market yourself. So if a guy's that's his first picture, that's his profile picture, and you're a woman and you want a serious relationship, we are on the defense because our first question is, right, this is supposed to be your best foot forward, and that's your first picture. What are your motives, right? You might still swipe right and just be like, okay, let's see how it goes. But I'm sure the women on the podcast, and the audience even can relate and say 9 times out of the 10, that guy that they've swiped right on and they had the shirt off is going to start being, the chat's going to go physical fast because that's what's important to him. So, on the other side for ladies, I'm like, put that skin away because the lucky man will find out that you've got a great body. He doesn't need to know that now. He can see your silhouette, like he can see your shape to see if you're his preference and all that's fine. Like, let's not hide the fact that we want to have that interaction eventually and be intimate with someone, but put that skin away. If he deserves it, he will see it. So don't worry. He has a big imagination, like all of you men do. So you don't have to show it all. So I would just say, for men who are doing that, if your shirt is off, it's got to be within a context which your shirt needs to be off. Not just like I'm at the gym. It's like, okay, so if there's a cool picture showing like what you like to do, or you're being a manly man, we like that. We like to see the masculine. So if you're being a manly man and you're chopping wood, that makes sense. But if you're just toilet selfie and your shirt's off, it's like, what's happening here? Am I being solicited? Like what's happening?
I know when I used to be on dating apps, this was maybe eons ago, probably when it first started, right? And became mainstream. I had three pictures. And one picture was actually the selfie, but I was fully clothed. And another one was me at an event where I was in a dress shirt, the dress vest, and it was like a full body image.
Mhm.
And another one was me just doing something like around the house. And I found a little bit of a success with that, but I also found that my bio was important as well, with what I was actually saying.
Yeah.
And I know there are many times where men will put, at least the feedback that I get from the women, is that men will put that they're looking for something long term when they're really not,
Yeah.
right? But they don't realize that everything they're saying before that sentence and after that sentence impacts that actual sentence. So, what kind of tips can you give to the
Yeah.
men from the woman's perspective when it comes to creating their online persona? Because
Mhm.
I didn't realize this was a thing, but Instagram, as you mentioned, is an extension of it. So is TikTok, so is Facebook, so is YouTube. So, what tips can you give from the to the men from the female's perspective?
Oh, I love these questions. I can't wait to show my audience this show. They're going to be like, oh, yes, Rachel, tell them. So, right. First of all, let's talk about the bio, right? Women use twice as many words as men. So I know you guys are great at synthesizing things, but really go into a little bit of detail in the bio. Give us a little bit of a feel of who you are. The I'm looking for a long-term girlfriend thing and you're not. Men, like, we're so intuitive as women. We will pick that up so fast. Like, we don't even have to be into the like the tarot and the crystal. We are just naturally very intuitive, so we can smell a rat from far away. And I just want like the men listening here to know, and like if your friends, for example, listen to your show as well, you don't have to promise a long-term relationship in order for a woman to go on a date with you. Like there will be women on the app that just want that physical relationship as well. Like they're on board because they're in that particular part of their journey. So, you know, you don't have to, treat some women as if they're naive. Oh, I've got to play the game that, oh, maybe there's potential and they'll sleep with me. Because there are plenty of women that are like, well, this is the phase of my life I'm in. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, the low value kind of woman. It's women who are so busy, maybe they're on their third business and they just want the companionship and that physical interaction, but in a respectful dynamic where you're both in agreement that, okay, we're going to be intimate with each other. Right now, we don't have the capacity emotionally, financially, whatever it is, to accommodate a relationship on that level, but we can be physical because we both have human needs. Trust me, there are so many women, particularly women who are doing very, very well, that would be happy to have that. But it's the second that we smell a rat and it's, oh, I'm just looking for the one. And it's like, you've lost. We actually like the honesty. You can just tell us. It's fine, you know?
Do How successful are the women with the online dating piece that you help with
Hmm.
in regards to finding what they want that's more than just the physical or what we would call the hookup culture?
Yeah, so interesting you're asking this because so what I help with that is because there's so many men online on the apps. Everyone is looking for love. I feel like even more so obviously post-COVID. Um, and what I personally do is in my practice and the package I offer is really helping to ramp up the quality so that women are not talking to 11 guys at once, but you are only talking to the high quality men. So it's a tough one because they come to me obviously because they can't find the quality that they're looking for. There does seem, according to what they're saying, that there are a lot of men who have so many options, and men at the moment are, and women are bombarded, but particularly men are bombarded with these Instagram looking models. And so the vision of what beauty is sometimes is a little bit skewed. I'm hearing, there's this expectation that we all look like these supermodels who, I mean, they don't even look like themselves, right? They have filters on filters and, maybe they're on their ninth surgery, which in itself is not bad, but at the same time, it's not a one size fits all for all women. So that's the feedback I'm getting. Like men seem to just not value someone who, comes from a good family, like tick, tick, tick box, but it's like, oh, but she doesn't look like the supermodel, or she doesn't look like this person or that celebrity. Because on Facebook, like if you go on Reels, do you see how many beautiful women now? It's just like boom, one after the other. And then if you feed yourself that every day, your mind says, okay, this is the standard then. So why would I settle for anything else if somewhere in Bermuda there's my curly haired goddess that exists? So all right, well, she must be here in the world somewhere.
I remember in when I was in university, I took a course called it was psychology, and the professor would show us images of how beauty changed over the years.
Ooh.
And some people don't realize that a curvier woman was the beauty standard in some place. Now, I don't mean like a necessarily obese or an overweight woman. I just mean a woman that has some curve to her. And then when you fast forward to let's say the 90s where you had the slimmer women, the runway models, it started to put into a lot of men's minds that this is what the beauty was. So you had a number of women who were very thin, some cases unhealthy wise, but some cases healthy. And it took me back to my 20s. I couldn't have a successful date with a woman that was successful by my definition to save my life. It was whoever wanted terrain got terrain at that point in time. But in my 30s, once I began to understand what women look for in a partner, I found more success. But I was able to find that success because I started asking the opposite sex questions. And I don't think that happens enough. Do you see that in you from in your field of business where you have them asking the right questions, but more importantly, they're asking questions of the opposite sex to understand what they want.
First of all, I think you have to come on my show ASAP for because I'm just like, this is the plan is side note, this the plan, well, it could be, but I'm just the more I'm talking to men like yourself, I'm like, there are such awakened men on the planet. Like we just need a whole season of you. So we have to chat, first of all. Second of all, again, this is what I do insist that women do, learn a lot more about male psychology, both from reading and also speak to men. So I'll give you an example of a really, I find it funny, but I'm sure the girl involved doesn't find it funny. So a really good friend of mine, I was not well, recovered. My friend was like, let's go out. And we were like ex-colleagues when we used to work in the corporate world together. And he was telling me, he's speaking to this girl or a woman, I should say, let's say woman, she's not girl, but speaking to her, and he didn't really seem that excited, right? And I've seen him more excited about other women. And I think she'd called and he watched the call and let it go. Now, this for me, he is like top tier black man. Like anyone who gets him, I'm like, you've smashed it, like, because he is platinum level. And if anybody's interested in him, please let me know. You know where to contact me. But yeah, so he watched it ring, and I was like, "No, pick up the phone." And he was like, "No, I'm at dinner. I'm at dinner." And I was like, "Okay." And then he messaged her saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna call you later." Now that would have been fine, but his friend then called and was in the neighborhood area. We were in like quite a hipster area of London, and he said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just out with a friend right now." And our dinner was coming to a close anyway, and I definitely was not going to go like nightclub. I was going to bed. I had plans. I had my tea waiting for me, my biscuits. So his friend was like, "No, just come out." Like, and so he was like, "Oh yeah, I think I'm just going to go out." And I said, "Why did you tell the girl you were going to call her later?" Or woman. Sorry, I keep going goodbye to girl. Why'd you tell her you were going to call her later when you know you're not, and you know you're at dinner? Why didn't you just say it? And I said, why didn't you tell her you're with a friend as well? Like she doesn't even know who you're at dinner with. And now because the time is gone, it's now tomorrow because like 1 a.m. And she's thinking, oh, does he even like me? Does he? And my point with all of this is like, so his whole objective with her was actually, I do want something long term, but he wasn't quite sure about her. And that is very innocent in itself. But because imagine that her on the other side, all she's getting is a broken promise and then silence. And most likely he didn't wake up until the afternoon. So now she's like, okay, who did he just find someone? Is he interested in someone else? So I always tell women, like, make sure you have male friends because you won't spiral naturally. It's natural to sometimes react this way because some things don't make sense, and if you don't have all the pieces, you make your own conclusions. But when you speak to men and you realize actually a lot of men are not malicious, like they're not doing things to piss us off on purpose. It's just, and like for this example, I said, why? And he was just like, yeah, I'm not 100% sure where this is going, but I do like her. But also, couldn't believe this. I just don't feel like she needs to know every single detail of what I'm doing when I'm doing it, blah, 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 blah. And he said, not in a bad way, but we're only seeing each other. I felt that was really interesting because, I feel like lots of high value men really value their freedom. And so, speaking to men on this type of topic, for example, you start to realize, oh, actually, women and men see freedom differently. Women and men see, revealing lots of details completely differently. Whereas a woman, I'm sure you know her blood type by the second day and, all of these things. But instead of getting mad and being like, oh, all men are X, Y, Z, you just learn. It's like learning a language. You don't ask why Spanish is Spanish. You just say, oh, okay, that's how it is. I respect that. I want to learn the language. Let me just follow the rules then?
What would be your definition of, since you use the word and with women as well, what would be your definition of a high value man and a high value woman?
Yeah, someone else asked me this the other day. I would say in both cases, someone who has done the work, and I know that sounds very generic and everyone is saying those buzzwords at the moment, but what that really means is really owning your shadow. Everyone has a shadow side. Everyone has been through something to some degree. We've all got some degree of parental wound, mother or father, on some spectrum, and it does affect how we show up in love. And so high value men and women are people who are aware of these wounds. They may not have fully integrated this shadow part of them into themselves, but they're very aware of it. They're successful in a lot of other parts of their life, and they want to move into that kind of success with love, but they're here saying, okay, actually, I don't know it all, teach me. That's someone who's so high value because it shows their humility, but it also reflects their intelligence as well. So I would say that rather than going into the details of someone who, doesn't sleep with someone, and I don't feel like that is not what makes someone high value or not. It's the self-respect for your journey, your shadow, your past, and holding yourself to a really high standard and a high regard, and then going out into the world and magnetizing the same back.
I like the ending of that because I totally agree with how you mentioned that the maximizing of certain areas of their life. And one of the reasons why I push back on, especially the men, but the women as well, is that I want each and every person to understand that the majority of people are not going to be high value by its definition,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the reason why I say that is that when I start with that and then I follow up with a question, are you okay with not being high value? Right?
Mm.
Or are you okay accepting someone in your life who's not high value, like how you're not high value? Then people will say, no, I'm not. And then the argument would be that, well, if you're not something, why are you willing to not accept it when someone else is, for all intents and purposes, what you are, right?
Mm.
So, and this is where I guess men have some challenges because they'll say that Train, I want a high value woman. Then ask the question, okay, what is that to you? Because apparently it's different to everyone, right? And let's
Mm.
say that she has to be under the age of 25, no kids, and her body count is less than 5. I was like, okay, perfect. That's perfectly fine, right? Your preference is going to become your prison, but let's run with that at this point, right? So, what do you have to offer this born again Christian woman, right?
Again.
Because she's going to come with what she is. So, are you working at are you sweeping floors?
Mm.
Are you a garbage man? Are you these things that earn a respectable income but they're not top tier? If
Mm.
the answer is no, then either you need to move up the ranks or you have to come down in what you want in the ranks. And I find that to be difficult for a lot of men and maybe women to grasp that maybe what they want isn't as realistic as they may
Mm.
think. Have you had those conversations with the women that you deal with?
So I specifically work with women who are that level, like they are smashing it, like they're like 5, 6, 7 figures. But I have seen, I don't know if you watch the Kendra G show. See, I used to watch it religiously, but then my sleep mate, because it comes on like 2 a.m. for us, I'm like, I can't keep this up. But I've seen on there a lot exactly what you're talking about. And anytime Kendra confronts them, like particularly the women, um, sometimes men as well. Like I know there are some men that come on that are like, I want a woman that has no kids, and he's got 7 kids, and Kendra's like, what? Like, why are you gonna be, something that she's gonna go for? And same with women, there's this obsession with this 6-figure thing, and I think I get it if you're there. I get it if you're there. That makes sense because there's a lifestyle you're already accommodated to. But if you're not there and there's no pathway to getting there, it's not like you've got a business and you know you're going to fast track yourself there or eventually get there, then it doesn't make any sense to me that where someone would want that. But I know that there are women that have a certain dynamic, I guess, that they have in their head where they want to be kept women. Um, which is fine. But it's just interesting. I think for those kind of women, it's a different ball game. And the question is, what else are you bringing? Not just that money is everything, but what other kind of value do you bring in? Does it measure up to what you're looking for as well? Is it going to be an attraction? Is it a match?
What are some of the things that your clients hold as valuable in a man?
Right. So they are, for the most part, I think copy paste want the same kind of man. So someone who is on their level or above. And that's not from a superficial standpoint. Again, lifestyle is important. They all have very specific lifestyles just due to the nature of how good their businesses are going. So they will have an entire team, you know, perhaps they do have to fly out of the country to do face-to-face seminars, etc. So they would want someone who, you know, if they had a trip, for example, to London to see me, which would be great, then they'd want someone to come along and finances wouldn't be an issue, right? Also, they want someone who is ready for a commitment, you know, not someone who's got, I don't know if you've heard of Peter Pan syndrome. It's not a real psychological syndrome, but it is something that we've kind of named for men who don't want to grow up. And sometimes it's really obvious, like as obvious as they really look like a child. And sometimes it's very, very subtle. And it's just a case of someone in, for example, their mid-40s still talking about how they don't want to catch feelings, you know, and they're still running away from commitment. And you know, and they're saying they want a family and they want this, and it's like that, but their actions aren't matching, and then yeah, all that crazy kind of stuff. So commitment ready. Another thing that all of them say is someone who sees that their success is an asset. It's actually a good thing. It means that you could be co-pilots and a power couple together rather than something to be intimidated by. So that's something that comes up a lot. And oh, I would love to talk about that actually. I'd love to get your point of view. And what else? I feel like those are the
Oh,
key
you can
ones.
ask me questions. Ask
Yeah.
away.
See, Noah, I didn't. I was like, I know this is your show, so I don't want to interrogate you in case it's like, wait, who's the interviewer here? So
Oh,
yeah,
we
okay.
got
So
time for the interrogation. No, we got time.
perfect, perfect. So please let's talk about this because it comes up so much, and I have my way of obviously teaching them like, right, this is how you kind of get out of that, not get out of it, but kind of master that answer where you're not disempowering yourself by saying, oh, it's not that much money because it is that much money and you have done really well. So own it. Um, so I teach them how to do that. And the way I do it is basically saying, like, you know, yes, you know, the success has come from this. Like, this is why I started my business. Like, talk about your North Star, like, show that this is for a reason. It's not all just a superficial thing. Like, everyone would have started their business because of this one thing that they had to transform. And then talk about how that not only benefits your immediate life, but your community, your friends, and how, you know, the money you earn maybe helps a NGO maybe that you support, or your mother who can't support herself, something like that. And I was like, yeah, just de-villainize the money part if that's something that's bringing tension. And then, you know, you're going to be seen as, oh, okay, it's just money's just an energy to her. Like she just uses it to do good and continues and repeats and rinses and repeats. So that's what I teach. I'm just like, well, you may get those questions. You may get men who are a bit intimidated by it, but just turn it around, turn the energy around. So, what about, so do you think, no, what's my question? I'm just actually, no, I won't even have a question. I'll just open a discussion point. Women who earn more, or women who are like 5, 6, 7, 8 figures, how do men view them? Are they dateable, in your opinion?
I think a lot of men are intimidated by it. To be honest, many men are they don't care about the income because they will feel that we don't get access to it. So, for example, if I'm going to use an example, right? So, if you earn 100,000, I earn 80,000. It's likely that you're not going to be the one giving me flowers and buying me dinners and things like that. I'm going to do right. I'm generalizing here, but a lot of men would lead that way. But what I do find is that the men who don't have access to resources are a little bit intimidated by the women who have access to resources. So, for example, the higher earner usually is the one that if they go places, they're more recognizable,
Okay.
right? Their career probably demands more. So, there was a friend I had. He and his girlfriend at the time, I'll give you an example for this. They both worked jobs that were probably minimum wage jobs. So, they're both earning
Mhm.
about 40,000, right? Now, they both went to university, but they both dropped out at the same time. It wasn't for them. She ended up working at a bank and her income started to increase. He stayed where he was, right?
Okay.
The income wasn't the issue. The issue was because she was going to the bank, she started to go to better restaurants. She started to go to events. She started to go to places where you needed a tie and a dress shirt, which is not what they were accustomed to when they both were on the same level. So she couldn't go to an all-you-can-eat buffet for their anniversary anymore. She wanted $100 lobster, right? And $100 steak. Because, and I think that's where people confuse it, is that when women earn a lot more money, certain doors open up to them, which are usually available to the men, right? The men will take you to the fancy restaurant, but you're going to feel a certain type of way if the woman takes you to the fancy restaurant, especially if you don't have the attire to go there, right? Because you want to match your woman's energy. So I think that's where the issue between the men and women happen. And plus, women, once they start to earn a lot more money, they're not going to date a guy working at McDonald's. The men will date, they might, not likely, but they might, right? They know, yeah, because if they go to a suit and tie event, are they going to bring the fries worker working at Mickey D's? You know, love does have limits.
If he brings the fries, no, I'm joking. But no, I see what you mean. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
But
I think the struggle, but go ahead. I think that's where the struggle is, but go ahead.
yeah, but it's a shame because why do you think that is? Do you think it's just because of like standard roles of male and female and our roles in the relationship? Because I feel that with women, I can't speak for all women, but I feel like the majority of us, we go on a date, a man earns a lot. Just like you've said, I mean, again, not all women, but there's an understanding, okay, that's his money, that's his life work. You won't really get access to that unless you're in a relationship, at least. Um, but there's not a threat. I feel like women are more likely to be inspired, and I feel women like my clients who are big earners, they would prefer if it was more either admiration or like their date is inspired by them, or a little bit of both. But instead, I feel like the general consensus is it's made to almost feel like a bad thing. And so women play down their success a lot, like, oh yeah, I do okay. And it's like when they're a best-selling author of 5 books, because they don't want to emasculate the guy. And do you know what's funny? I did a TikTok on this, and a man came and said, real men are not intimidated by women. I thought, okay. Or what do you think about it? Talk to me. You're a man.
I agree. I agree. I Most of the women I've dated are successful in their own way, but I've always dated women that had a successful career. Now, based if it's strictly based on numbers, they didn't make more money than me, but they may have made similar amounts. So it wasn't like a huge disparity between what I made and what they made. And I will agree that men shouldn't be intimidated by it, but we need to understand what is the source of the intimidation, right? Because women who are very successful, they have a specific personality type. And that personality type may clash because they're more driven,
Yeah.
right? They're more goal oriented, many things that are considered masculine, right? So if I would quote my grandmother who's born in Jamaica, you can't have two bulls in one
You're
tent.
Jamaican?
That's my background,
Why
yes.
did you start with that? I'm half Jamaican.
Oh, there you see, ladies and gentlemen, it's a small world after all.
What?
Right? So you know the saying that two bulls can't run in one tent.
Yeah, yeah.
That's basically what it is. So when you have a man that is ambitious, is that driven, or wants to be, and then you have the woman who's already who's going to lead that house? That's
Yeah.
where you have the butting of heads, right? And you can't just say, "Well, I'm the man. Listen to me." There's a whole song, "I am woman, hear me roar." There's a whole song dedicated to that. So I think if men can understand the source of that intimidation or that feeling, then they can overcome it. But it's easier to just get rid of the person who's making you feel that way instead of changing internally who you are.
Oh my God. I feel like you're gonna give so many women this light bulb moment of that's why he ghosted. That's why he doesn't message me anymore because of that. And not every man is ready to go to that place because the reason why they're intimidated is not because of something that happened last week or even last year. It's going to be something deep rooted that they're just not ready to face. And therefore, the most easy thing is to be unmatch, block, goodbye. In fact, I can't remember where I saw it, but it was either a group of men or a man. I don't know where this message came from, but anyway, it was just that men are so unlikely to block women. They don't really block. They only block if they're like physically scared or they're perhaps being unfaithful and they don't want you to contact them and they're in another relationship. Otherwise, they'll just delete maybe the number. Maybe not. Maybe it would just be a slow, just fade, because possibly you might come in useful in a year or so. And this is where they come back from the dead and they're like, oh, hi, how are you? And it's like, who's this?
So, Rachel, as we prepare to close, take
Mhm.
us through some advice that you want to leave with my audience, especially the women who, when they get ghosted because of some of the things that we discuss and some of the reasons why men maybe don't want to deal with someone who is a high earner, who is ambitious, how would you want to help them and leave them some advice?
Yeah, so I would say everything that you're experiencing in your dating world is a reflection of your vibration. So that's not to say you deserve people who do this to you, but it does mean that whatever you're in control of, which is your own vibration, which is your thoughts, your core beliefs, that is what is being projected into the world for you. So I would suggest really looking at your relationship with love, like what are some of the beliefs that you are saying to be true? And one of the big things, I just did a live workshop on the psychology of dating down. And in that, I spoke about women gathering together and how powerful that is in any sense, whether it's negative or positive. But when you have a group of women gathering together and saying, men are this, men are that, the power of that, of everything you're declaring, just manifests itself one after the other. So just be careful of what you're calling into your reality, even by accident. Like I said, don't block your own blessings for the long term just to have 10 minutes of being popular in a group of women. Just focus on your vibration, focus on your core beliefs around love, and reinvent how you see men. Like start talking, as we've just said, to men, start really learning about male psychology and do it from a place of blank canvas. Like start from scratch, really get to know what it means to know the soul of a man. And that's really going to help in the dating game. And also when it comes to stuff like ghosting, you're not going to take that personally because you know that there is a whole thought process around that has no reflection of your own value as a woman.